Hello, and thanks for joining us for ACCA's first market update for 2013. I'm John Winter, Head of ACCA Australia and New Zealand, and I'm here in Brisbane to meet with Dean Davidson, the Executive General Manager and National Practice Leader for Accounting and Finance for global recruitment firm Hudson. Dean's going to be talking to us a little bit today about what's happening not just here in Brisbane, but right across Australia and New Zealand for accountancy professionals. Dean Davidson from Hudson, thank you very much for joining us today and giving ACCA members and students the chance to have a much better understanding of what's happening across the Australian and New Zealand marketplace. First of all, can you tell us a little bit about Hudson and the role that you play in trying to find people recruitment opportunities across Australia and New Zealand?
Well, Hudson is one of the global players in the recruitment and talent management industry. We have global operations. Our Australian-New Zealand business is an incredibly strong footprint of that, and within that our accounting and finance practice specialisation would be without doubt one of our most mature and deepest specialisations that we're delivering.
So Dean, how would you characterise the market across Australia at the moment?
I think it's still a very cautious marketplace with headcount growth in organisations still not near the levels that we saw sort of pre-GFC.
Dean, if we can look specifically now at the accounting and finance market, what do you think the Australian region is looking like for accounting and finance opportunities at the moment?
I think it's an important point there. I think the accounting market across Australia and New Zealand, include both regions, since the GFC has been very quiet in comparison to other role disciplines such as ICT, sales and marketing, etc. What we have seen in the accounting market is a real consolidation of accounting functions within organisations, and there's certainly been a tendency not to replace headcount when there's been natural turnover. So there's been a lot of consolidation of role families, merging of roles, etc. The big trend we've definitely seen is the move away from your traditional processing transactional style of accountant, compliance accountant, to more of the real business need to get someone that's commercially astute, business savvy, and can really partner with the business on driving process improvement, cost efficiencies, etc. So whilst one skill set, I guess is in less demand, we're certainly seeing the demand for accountants with those commercially strong skill sets to increase. There's certainly an oversupply. I think again a key thing that needs to be factored in is regarding the quality of that oversupply. Given the market's very cautious by very nature, I think whilst there's a lot of candidates that are applying for roles and expressing interest, quite often the best quality candidates are still staying put where they are. So we've certainly seen a lot of overseas interest in candidates from all parts of the globe. I think interestingly the I guess connection with the Australian marketplace is changing. I mean, historically it's been that UK, Ireland, Australia corridor. We're certainly starting to see the Asia market in particular merge closely to the domestic market here across Australia and New Zealand.
And Dean, what about New Zealand? How are we seeing the market there?
Yeah, New Zealand's somewhat similar. I mean, what's underpinning growth in NZ is clearly the Canterbury rebuild. That Canterbury region, jobs growth-wise, has certainly come off the back of a strong 6-12 months. That will continue for the foreseeable future over the next 6-12 months. The property construction market's clearly a market that that is being leveraged, and there's clearly byproduct of that with service providers, etc. So, growth in NZ is expected to be marginally stronger than Australia at this point.
How are you seeing the outlook for accounting and finance generally in that market?
Somewhat similar. It still is a very static market. I mean, if you look at the three main accounting hubs in New Zealand, Auckland, Wellington and Christchurch, you've got three very distinct markets. Auckland is very, very heavily driven by the financial services and professional services market. We are starting to see some green shoots there from an accounting perspective in those locations, within financial services in particular, as we have in Sydney of recent times. Wellington's clearly characterised through the public sector and government market there. That'll always be a reasonably stable, solid sort of marketplace. And then finally Christchurch, certainly seen an increase in demand for project project accounting skills, etc., in line with the rebuild expectations going on in Christchurch.
So in general, what roles are we seeing that are in demand right now, Dean?
Look, it's a generic term, but I mean, what you generally classify as analyst, business analyst, commercial analyst, again, people that have that strong cost improvement, process efficiency sort of background, risk in particular. Well, I mean, that's been definitely an emerging skill set over, probably over post GFC. Risk has always been one of those sort of grey areas, but where we've seen a lot of opportunities being, strong internal auditors that really have good business process understanding have made that transformation into more whole of business risk roles, away from the day-to-day compliance of internal audit. Interestingly now, if you look at the key role of the sought after accounts, it's those that can actually communicate and engage operations with the compliance sort of requirements. There's no doubting we'll continue to see the day-to-day transactional accounting needs reduce. The volume of skills we need in that area and quantity will decrease over time. And we're seeing offshoring continuing to happen, but most importantly, it's technology that's driving the need for organisations now not to have very large accounts payable, accounts receivable, payroll functions.
All right, Dean, now maybe if we can look at each of the major capital cities specifically, can we have a chat about what you think is happening in Sydney to start off with?
Yeah, look, good news in Sydney in the sense that we're starting to see those green shoots reappear. Sydney's very, very heavily skewed down that financial service, professional services path. Within the financial services industry, we are starting to see opportunities arise, but not in what you call the classical financial accounting roles. I mean, the financial services sector is one that absolutely has an appetite for people that have a good understanding of business risk from both an operational and financial perspective. Contract in particular, we're starting to see offshoots of contract opportunities within financial services. I think that'll continue for the foreseeable future. There is still somewhat of a hesitation with putting on headcount growth from a permanent perspective. So again, those that have an appetite for contract work, potentially going to see greater volumes in that space. The Sydney marketplace too, definitely has a higher skewness towards the senior end opportunities. On the whole, the senior end of the market, financial controller and above, has been very dormant for a period of time. At present, I don't foresee any significant change in that senior end of the market. I mean, the bulk of the activity in the Australian marketplace is generally at that mid-level.
That's great. What about in Melbourne, Dean? How are you seeing the market and the outlook there?
Melbourne's been a tough market, and I think, it goes without saying. I mean, I think the last 6-12 months there's certainly been a lot written at a macroeconomic level in the Melbourne marketplace. That has absolutely had an impact on the accounting market.